Hey, what's up? Welcome to part two. Or as KD is going to do in his British voice.
Part two. I have no British voice. Sorry.
Or comic timing. Anyway, we're going to continue with part two of the trip. The trip I was with a group or a crew. Um, I have nothing against that group, and I'm sure in the future I will go on more trips with that group. Hopefully they will let me go on more trips with that group. But I want to post this on multiple platforms, and there's one group that is like, you just shouldn't mention the name of the group. So I'm leaving both anonymous, the people that I went with and the people that don't want me to talk about it. So we'll continue. And I went to Blackpool Pleasure Beach, or we all did. We looked at the Blackpool Museum, and we got to look at their new for 2018 attraction, Icon, which is a Mac launched coaster that is going to have, I believe, three or four inversions, and it's going to interact with rides, and it's going to have two launches. The museum area that we were at, they showed video of Icon. They showed a model of the park in the Jeffrey Thompson era. And there were also some models and classic pictures and the original Velvet Coaster train, which we all got to sit in. Uh, Good seats. I did make a joke about if they could open Icon today. And they were like, no, the ride's not even halfway built. But it was worth a shot, right, Katie?
Mm-hmm.
Good boy. I owe you a cookie. Anyway,
Chocolate chip.
break the joke. So then we went to the Big One coaster, formerly the. Well, I'm not going to say it because if you say certain companies on YouTube, they flag it as inappropriate.
Oh,
Don't ask me why. Blame PewDiePie. I do.
okay then.
So I rode the Big One. It's 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 based on the on Drew the Intern's favorite roller coaster, the Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point.
This is a nice coaster.
This, it looks like it might be the same coaster. No. Basically, take Magnum, yeah, make it a little bit taller, but stretch the ride to almost double it, to almost double, but keep the same layout. So instead of having sharp, steep hills and inclines, you have more of like very long, shallow inclines and very long, shallow declines. And just like my least favorite coaster, the Conneaut Lake Park Blue Streak, this ride has bad shuffling at the bottom of every single one of the dips. The ride has very little weightlessness. I think I got float maybe a few times, didn't get off my seat once. Uh, Not a very exciting layout.
How's the theming?
You go through a soda can at the beginning.
So I should say non-existent.
Theming is not the number one thing of Blackpool, and they're on 42 acres, so they have to kind of cram attractions
things.
where they can. Some of the rides do have theming. No one punch me. But yeah, it's not Magnum. Magnum is better. Mamba at Worlds of Fun is better. Steel Eel at SeaWorld San Antonio is better. What else is better? I get more weightlessness on Demon than I did on the Big One. Uh, Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood is significantly better. I don't know if it's the trains or something, but something needs to be fixed about the Big One. I don't know what, but something. After that, then we went to Steeplechase. Uh, which was 3 separate roller coaster tracks. So of course I had to ride it 3 separate times. I came in second, first, and last. And the first time, I sat behind somebody, and then I realized you could ride by yourself. Okay? Then it was time to essentially walk to the other half of the park. Through Nickelodeon Land, I feel like we kind of walked the long way, but that's me. And we got our Speedy Pass. This park's Speedy Pass is the only park that we went to that had a Cubot system similar to Six Flags parks.
Really?
Every other one was like the Cedar Fair one, where it's like, hey, here's my stub. Okay, wait in this line. So I rode Grand National. Oh boy. I can say I've completed my trilogy of Mobius racing wooden coasters, as I've been on Racer at Kennywood, Montana Russa at La Feria, which I rode with a very nice guy. He rode with a jerk. I'm talking about myself. And then I rode Grand National. Uh, it was okay. But one review that someone said was, it better count as 2 credits because I rode it twice. Does that pretty much sum up the basic feel about that ride? After that, then we went to Infusion, which, bless their hearts, they tried to make an adorable SLC. For those of you who don't know what an SLC is, Mindy Racer at several Six Flags parks in Darien Lake, Gauntlet at Magic Springs, Twisted Typhoon at Wild Adventures, Kong at Discovery Kingdom. Basically a very painful Vekoma 5-looping coaster, and it was relocated. Sorry, folks. Bless their hearts, they tried. But, yeah, even though it's painted blue, it's very obvious that it was originally red because a lot of the paint is chipping. It's very noticeable. It's very obvious. During the final turn before you go into the brakes, just before jets of water go up. And for the third inversion, where it's like a half loop followed by a half corkscrew, you go up, your feet skim above a waterfall. And what's kind of cool is that there's a layout of the ride in the queue line. I would put it near the exit, but that's me. It replaced a log flume that was apparently 7 minutes long, but it only had 1 drop. It's up to you to decide which one would be a better attraction. Then I rode Big Dipper. This ride, I finally got airtime! This is one of those rides that, although the restraint was down, 100%, it was locked, and the train left, and I wasn't breaking any laws. I felt like I was standing up on some of those drops.
Cool.
Yeah, it's an L-shaped out and back wooden coaster. It's probably, when you think of like a classic wooden coaster, that's what comes to mind. Then I rode Avalanche, which was a fun Mack bobsled coaster with characters that are very outside of that attraction are bears, very similar to the Country Bear Jamboree. Don't ask me what Country Bear Jamboree bears have to do with Avalanche, but anyway. Then I rode Revolution, which was my second Aero shuttle loop coaster. If you don't know what it is, that's kind of one where you have to walk up like 50 feet, and then there's a loop at the bottom, and then you get launched backwards, and then you have to walk back down 50 feet.
Mm.
And in this road, there was one car that was entirely closed because someone bombtroned. Then I rode the Blue Flyer, which that was okay. It was a fun mini wooden coaster. It was like 30, maybe 35 feet tall. And then I rode Nickelodeon Streak, and I wish I could have ridden it back when it was called Roller Coaster, or even before that, because this ride originally had no restraints whatsoever.
Really?
No lap bar, no seatbelt, nothing. You just held on. Because the UK has this idea that if you're stupid and you hurt yourself, it's your fault. I know. Terrible world, huh?
Terrible world. How could you let people be accountable for their actions?
Brought to you by free healthcare. So I wrote Nickelodeon Streak.
Okay, then.
It does have restraints, sadly, but whatever.
Safety.
With the restraints, it's kind of nothing special. It's a smaller Big Dipper. But I think if it didn't have the restraints, it would be a lot more special.
Okay.
We went to a gift shop, and normally I don't really bring up gift shops, but I'm going to with this one. This is one where it's like Cedar Point. You need to do this. You need to have this type of gift shop. They had a gift shop that in one section sold used coaster parts. Like chain dogs, wheels, pieces of wood from the wooden coaster when they retract it. There were even things from previous attractions that aren't there anymore.
Did they sell like any like chairs or seats from?
No, they're like small things. They're like cog motors, they're wheels, there are screws, bolts, like Nerdvana. I was like, okay, I was telling Drew the intern, I was like, how come Cedar Point doesn't have something like this? And he was like, oh my god. It was like, oh wow. I'll bring up lunch. We ate at 1 second. Move to the side, please. Trying to here it is. We ate at here is it. We ate at the White Tower at the top, and what we had, the way on how I'll describe it, gourmet Red Robin.
Okay.
We had burgers in like a 5-star restaurant, and we had very warm, very good fries. I don't know if there was dessert. If there was, it was delicious. If there wasn't, there should have been.
So the food was excellent.
Yeah. This park I also want to mention, the group gave us souvenir cups. I can't find mine at the moment. So, yeah. Any questions, KD?
No, you're very explicit and seemed like it was very good. But I do have a question. What are the other? I do have a question.
Yeah.
What is the Alice ride?
It's a dark ride themed to Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, I thought that like Mel and Flo and all those people from Alice would be the show.
What was the name of that show? It was like Kiss My Grits, right?
Oh, the Flo, the one.
Oh, the show was called Flo?
No, it was Alice, but
okay.
Flo was also a waitress, and she'd tell Mel, "Mel, kiss my grits."
Yeah, I don't think that show would have been. I don't think that show would have warranted making a ride, especially themed to Lewis Carroll. And this one, because it's so similar to the Disney one, they actually put a sign that was like, "This ride opened in like '58 or something." So it's like, hey, you guys. Well, okay, you didn't. So yeah, there's the map. There's a lot of stuff, huh?
Yep. What about the Derby Racer?
The Derby Racer, that's their high speed carousel, like the Cedar Downs at Cedar Point, or the Derby Racer at Playland. I hate to break it to you, Blackpool fans. You guys do not have the best. Uh, you guys don't have the best Derby Racer. I'm sorry. Rye Playland has the best Derby Racer. This one was okay, but it didn't like move forwards and backwards. It just kind of like kept the same speed, and I kind of got bored after a while. There was no way to like really like race like you do at Rye Playland. Mm-hmm.
So what about Ghost Train?
Ghost Train is a weird, like 1930 maybe, dark ride, themed to haunts and gore and action, including one section where there's a bunch of bugs and they kind of lean forward and on a wall, and that wall kind of leans towards you.
What's Valhalla?
Yes, I rode Valhalla. Valhalla is a 6 minute long water ride where it's it's kind of like Splash Mountain in that it's mainly enclosed and indoors. More than Splash Mountain. You go forwards, you go backwards. It goes. You experience fire. You're in this section that's extremely hot. Then you go into a section that's freezing cold, and that's great because the boats don't drain, and so your feet are gonna freeze because ponchos can protect everything except your shoes.
Now, are you clothed during this?
Yeah, it's a water ride. It's a log flume.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Kay was like, if you're riding that, you're gonna wear a poncho. And I was like, I should have worn shopping bags over my shoes. Because my shoes were drenched at the end of that ride. But yeah, you go forwards, you go backwards. There's multiple lifts, multiple drops. There's tons of theming, and it's really cool.
Hmm.
Don't ask me to tell you what the plot is. All I got was people like to stand up on log flumes. Because we had to stop about 5 times because dumb people did that.
What about Dora's World Voyage?
That was weird. Dora's World Voyage was kind of like a kid's version of Jungle Cruise without Spielers.
Mm.
You've been on Jungle Cruise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in this one, it's pretty much the Jungle Cruise with Dora the Explorer, except you're sitting in circular boats. And as you're going through each section, the speaker in the boat above you says, "Hey, welcome. Hey, I'm Dora. Welcome to Italy. Can you say hello in Italian?" Insert how to say hello in Italian. "Very good. I love Italy. I love Italy. I love Italy. Let's have fun in Italy. Hey, welcome to Ireland." Or, "Hey, welcome to Kenya. Hey, welcome to Brazil. Hey, welcome to China." I was like, what? But yeah, that's what it was. And when I looked at it, I was like, that looks weird. I want to do it. So I did that.
What about Wallace and Gromit Thrillomatic?
Oh, I'm gonna piss off some Claymation and Aardman fans here.
Like Gumpy?
Yeah, I am not a huge Wallace and Gromit fan. I understand they exist. I understand that it's a human and a dog, and there's a were-rabbit. That's about all I know, and that's about all I recognized on the ride. The ride is like 5 or 6 minutes long. It's this indoor dark ride, where you sit in a shoe, and they take your picture. And essentially, you're going through the greatest hits of Wallace and Gromit. I was like, hey, there's Wallace. Hey, there's Gromit. Hey, there's the were-rabbit. What the heck is that? This park had like 5 dark rides, so I wanted to make sure that, or yeah, 5 or so dark rides,
Oh.
and a bunch of like weird attractions. And I wanted to make sure I hit a lot of the classic and weird ones.
Impossible.
The Impossible was 2 attractions in one. It was a kind of like it starts off as a mirror maze. Then it goes into a bunch of optical illusions. Then you ride this small little some like river rocker but much smaller. It was so small and it moved so little that the operator, I think I might get this person fired, but the operator said the kids can sit in the middle. It doesn't matter. You don't need to buckle your seatbelts. You'll be fine. I'm gonna start the ride. And even though it was very tame, and Kay has been on worse, I was like, Kay, brace yourself. Make sure you're okay. Be sure you can handle it. Do you want to put the backpack in front of your tailbone for comfort? And then it just ends. Anything else?
What about flying machines?
Flying machines. This would be so much easier if you were older.
I am.
No, but I mean, can remember Riverview.
Oh, so if I was another 15 years old.
Have you seen pictures of Riverview about how they had the plane ride that it was suspended by cables and you kind of like it swung outwards?
Yeah, like the Stratocast or whatever it was.
That's it. That's what I rode.
Hmm.
Not the most thrilling attraction on the planet, but not the worst attraction in this park that I went on.
Cool. What about the river caves?
The River Caves was odd. The River Caves was it was kind of like an old mill style boat ride, except instead of being in the dark so you can have a little privacy. If you know what I mean.
Okay, that.
There's a reason why they were called Tunnel of Loves.
Hmm.
The ride is a kind of a hodgepodge of various places where the first half of it kind of feels like Indiana Jones or no, Jungle Cruise Inside, complete with like rainforest and gators. And then the second half is kind of Egyptian Indiana Jones.
Oh.
And then you go outside, you go up like maybe 10 or 15 feet, then you dip, and then you go back into the station. It's like, I have no idea what happened. But I think they say that's the oldest river caves in the world, or the original.
Really? And last but not least, my next question. Red Arrow Skyforce.
Red Arrow Skyforce. Oh jeez, you're gonna beat me up for this. I don't remember the name of that type of ride. The ride essentially is a kind of a rectangular paratrooper with joysticks that you can move forwards, backwards, and sideways. And if you move them in a certain way, your seat will flip upside down as you're going through it.
Mm.
I was unable to, so it felt like a paratrooper, a tall paratrooper.
Okay, were you in like a box or a car, or
You were,
was it more like a rocketplane? Or
yeah, maybe more like, well, you didn't have, you weren't in a shell or anything.
okay,
You were essentially just like sitting with wing flaps to the side of you. So you were kind of like free. So yeah. Then we went to the hotel. Then after that, then we checked out and headed to their former park that they used to own, Pleasureland Southport. We got a tour of the Pleasureland train ride. And then we got to ride the Pleasureland train ride, which was a train ride that was more like a what is that type of thing called? It was more of kind of like an incline train, except it was on the ground. So it didn't form a complete loop. It kind of went to one direction and then it went back. And I think it's the oldest train ride in the world or something.
mm.
And they're trying their hardest to reopen it and restore it to its former glory.
Mm.
After that, then we were allowed to just like rollick or, yeah, have fun in the park. So I rode, well, we went and we saw that the Wildcat was being dismantled, and I was like, oh man, dude, is there a way you can get them to reopen that ride? And, no, they didn't. But then, we looked and they were like, oh my god, there's a third coaster here. There's one that's being added temporarily, the Grand Canyon, which is essentially just like a themed kind of like a dragon wagon, a bigger version of that's themed.
Mm.
And when that got added, I was like, thanks for having them added. And it was like, no problem. Then I went on Looping Star, or Looping Coaster, depending on what sign you read. It's a Pinfari one looping coaster that is terrible, and it replaced a Vekoma SLC. And I was telling people, it's up to you to decide which is worse.
Gotta love Vekoma.
Yeah, gotta love Pinfari even more. Then after that, then I rode another wacky worm. This one was more intense
Really?
because this wacky worm, the drop, uh, I don't know. I think it was maybe a little longer or a little steeper, but I was like, okay, whatever. It's a standard wacky worm, Big Apple, whatever. But then going down that drop and then hitting the turn, I was like, whoa! And usually I do kind of like push it to. I don't want to be like, yay, I'm going through an inversion. Woo-hoo. Like, I don't want to be that, because I think if you're doing something you love and you're acting like that, do you really love it? Can you imagine you making out with your wife? Can you imagine you making out with your wife and going, oh baby, you are very beautiful. Woo-hoo. You set my heart aflutter. It's like, that's not a sign that
You're saying one thing. You're saying one thing, but then you're showing another.
So, some people may not like it, but I kind of, like if I have fun on a ride, I'm gonna have fun. Like, I don't care. I'm riding a roller coaster. What are people going to do? Oh my god, that dude is riding a roller coaster. Call the police. So, like, when I'm on some coasters, like, when they go over midways or when they go next to parking lots, I'll, like, tell
Wave.
people to wave. I'll, like, I'll, like, go, woo! Yeah! Here we go! Into the turn! Yeah! Some people might find that annoying. I just find it enthusiasm.
Okay.
So, yeah, this was pure enthusiasm. I was like, whoa! On the drop, and just like with Lightwater Valley, I held on because I was like, I have a feeling we're gonna go around again, and I think you went around 3 times on that ride. After that, sorry, there's no map. I rode the Ghost Train. It's a standard, spook in the dark, laugh in the dark, horror fun house, haunted house. However, what was unique, there were 3 things that were unique about this. First of all, there were a lot of cases where both doors were supposed to be closed. In this case, there's only like one door that was closed and one door that was open. So, oh gee, I wonder if we're gonna go through this door.
Like, hello?
Another thing was that there was a giant bat with a gash wound under right like here. So, give me your shoe. No, like, take off your shoe. Like, right here. Can you describe it for the folks at home?
Shoes right in front of my face.
And do you know what that means? If you're on a ride?
It's going to hit you.
That means you have to kind of duck. Otherwise, the dead, overgrown rat, or overgrown bat, which was like the size of the kitty right there. You know who I'm talking about. Turn around.
Oh, yeah.
It's about the size of her. And it had like a gash wound. And then at the ending, it's just kind of whatever. Or the ride is okay, nothing special. You get off the ride and you walk on plexiglass over a coffin of like someone that they made to look dead. So it's like, okay, that's a little creepy. Then I went in their funhouse. This is really stretching it as a funhouse. It's more of like a playground. And when I mean a playground a father would set up in his backyard. You remember the playground that used to be in our backyard? It was a slightly bigger that. So you might be wondering, why am I bringing it up, right? We got wristbands for a number of credits, which included all the coasters and a couple other rides. And I was like, you know what, I've got extras. What the hey? So I go in this and I'm thinking, okay, there's nothing really special. It's just, standard fort. But then you get to the rollers. You know the roller things, right? Where they're like this, that you like step on and you could like essentially push yourself without walking. This had the only case that I've ever seen of hilly rollers. Where you go down noticeably, then you go up, then you go down, and then you go back up. So I was like, I'm going to try to do this. And so I was like, whoa, whoa. And they got more guests. They didn't necessarily get more money, but they got more guests because I think I convinced about two or three people in our group to do that.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot. We also did their idea of a horror maze, and that's really stretching it. When I say horror maze, I mean an outdoor daylight maze that has like
A ghost.
two stickers of like the stuff you would buy at like Halloween Party City.
Now that's funny.
The stuff that you would like stick on the other side of your window, the like cartoony kind.
Mm-hmm.
There were two of them. Happy Halloween. Then I rode a waltzer. Woohoo!
And how was the waltzer?
Apparently it wasn't as good as the one at South Pier, but I was kind of beat. Waltzer, if you don't know what that is, think of a tilt-a-whirl cranked up to 11. And you know that Kay is a huge fan of tilt-a-whirls, right?
Big time.
She wanted to do it. And I put her through enough by putting her on the coaster that, you know.
Yeah.
I wish I could have put her on something, I don't know, 310 feet tall instead.
But
Can't change the history until a time machine is invented.
true. So how did she fare on the waltzer?
She complained that I wasn't helping her. I wasn't like being on one side, like helping spin enough. So I was like, "Oh, okay. You want me to help you? Okay, let me go right next to you." And then we spun a whole bunch. And I was like,
Did she like that?
I don't remember.
Did you like that? Or did you get
I was
dizzy?
fine.
Okay.
And then, warning: anyone from England, Great Britain, London, or Europe, you're gonna roll your eyes now. Take a guess what I ate at this park. Read what it says.
Fish and chips.
Yes, I ate fish and chips.
It sounded like it was pretty good then.
It was a lot of fish and a lot of chips. It was very greasy as well.
But very tasty.
Mm-hmm.
Bonus.
I was like, I said to the leader, I was like, can I bring this on the bus? And he said no. I was like, okay, Kay, come on, let's eat this fast. And then he ordered one, and he got it to go. And I was like, I didn't say anything, but I was like thinking, you said I couldn't bring it on the bus. What interesting timing.
I guess so. What's the fun house?
I already told you what the funhouse was. It was that fort with the rollers.
Okay, that was what it was.
Oh, I forgot. And it ends with you essentially walking on log stumps
Okay. Oh.
in a
pretty
pool.
interesting. A pool of water?
Yeah.
Okay.
And for unknown reasons, there's two alligators at the bottom. It's only like 3 feet deep.
They're not live, are they?
No. Yeah, they're live for a fun house.
That would be fun.
Yeah, it's right next to the they're right next to the area where you can pet the cobras and Harvey Weinstein's kissing booth. And Kevin Spacey's Let's Just Be Friends. After that, then we took a nice drive to Gulliver's World, and you know how I mentioned earlier that I went to Gulliver's Milton Keynes, I believe. Which, by the way, they did open after Disneyland, so there you go. I asked the lady, like, are you guys? I apologize if this like I shouldn't talk about, or if there's like bad blood. But are you and the other Gullivers, are you guys like the same company? And she said, yeah. And I was like, oh, whew. And If she said something to her group, can I say it?
What do you mean?
What their future is.
I don't see why not if she told you.
Okay, they're gonna open another Gulliver's, and it's gonna be the largest, and they have no plans to build one in the United States. So yeah, uh, at this park, they've got some unique attractions. They have the Antelope, which is a, uh, Little Dipper at Great America?
Mm-hmm.
Make that a little taller and make it not as good.
Okay then.
And make it have less air time.
Okay then.
I was like thinking, well, this should be fun. And it was jerky. There's no weight. There's no air time. Every single one of the drops, it might as well have been 7 feet. And I got off thinking, it's ultimate at light water all over again. Dang it! They got me again. After that, I think I rode a disco here. I'm not 100% sure. But then I rode their Caterpillar. As I said, it wasn't as intense as the Southport Pleasureland, and it's because this one has a much more shallow drop. Uh, okay, anything you want to say about Gulliver's World? They were the one where you you got to have the gluten-free desserts. She said they were nice. And then I rode the Crazy Train. The Crazy Train is the Crazy Train is the same exact model that I rode at Adventure Island. It was the Mini Mighty Mega. And then I rode its similar ride, the Python, at the Gulliver's. This one was weird. This was a roller coaster. No maximum height restriction, so adults were able to ride. But the seats were okay, but the seatbelts were extremely tiny. So ask me how I rode.
How did you ride?
They have one seatbelt extender.
And you took it?
Yes. And because I took it, the leader of the group had to wait a train because I was using it, and I apologized several times. He said, I'll forget about it if you stop bringing it up.
Okay. Fair enough.
Then I rode the Runaway Train, which...
Runaway train, never coming back. It's a song.
If I lose monetization, you owe me... What the heck? $7,000. No, I do not make anywhere close to that. I rode one Runaway Train where... You know how Kay has a fear of... How Kay isn't a huge fan of, like, wild mice coasters?
Mm.
This would be if a coaster designer went to Kay and said, Kay, design a wild mouse. Here's $7 million.
Oh, cool.
So it's 8 feet tall. I think it goes 7 miles an hour. Or maybe even less. Instead of one car train, it's like an 8-car train. And like I said, it's 8 feet tall, so you don't have a fear that you're going to fall to your death on the wild mouse.
Okay, then.
So, and I was saying it to her, I was like, if a company asked you to design a wild mouse, this is probably what you would come up with. They also, I believe this park also had, racing, wet dry slides. You know, they're the inner tube slides that you can ride with straight clothes. What I found the funniest, and this is a pure coaster, you have to be coaster enthusiast, otherwise you won't get it. I was like, Look, it says Togo. Why'd they pick that name? Togo is a company that is famous for not good coasters. Togo, yeah. Then we went into Adventure Canyon, which, again, it was kind of like an Indiana Jones knockoff. Shooting dark ride, but again, you shot, nothing happened, didn't keep score. And small seats. Then I went into the ghost house where you know that if it's a children's park, it's probably not going to be that terrifying. It was a standard like Giggle fun house. Then I saw the then I saw then we were about to leave, but we saw their main show. Okay, do you want to talk about their main show at Gulliver's? Okay, I'll talk about it.
Tell me what it's about.
What was that?
It was the one that was on the lake.
Oh, with the Halloween singing
Yeah.
and stuff, the characters
It was
that they had in
it
the
was
park.
3 characters that were singing like Monster Mash, I think,
Yeah,
and
there was a ghost.
a cat and a dog, maybe? I don't know.
I forget.
There were just 3 characters. They were doing like, hey, Halloween doesn't have to be scary. Halloween can be fun, kids.
Yeah.
And that's when the, like,
Well,
bad
it was
guys.
a kids' park.
Yeah.
Oh, the witch and the 2 other ladies.
Yeah, they came on, they were like saying, no, Halloween, or they were like, no, Halloween is supposed to be scary. That's the best part of it. I was trying to beat their enthusiasm.
Yeah. Well, everybody at that park was enthusiastic.
And then, and I don't remember why, but there was a dragon, which was on barges, where it was the lighting display of a dragon, outline of a dragon, that lit. That's it. I was like, that's an odd show. If we had more time, I would have done the King, I think it's called the King of Hearts. Can you guys do this conversation downstairs? I would have done the maze attraction. I think it was themed to Alice in Wonderland.
Cool.
And then we drove much longer to Alton Towers. And that's when Kay and I got a pizza. And did we also get wings? Okay.
I don't remember.
So we got a pizza. I think it was barbecue chicken. And during that time... And garlic bread. And during that time and then we fell asleep.
You got a whole, 10-inch pizza, 2 pieces of garlic bread, and a soda for, €9.
Mm.
So that's, maybe $10, $11 US.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, then I went to so then we ate at the hotel, and then we slept, and then it was time to get up to go to...
Continue.
Should I pause it?
No,
just go.
continue.
I went to one of the... Okay, you talk a little bit while I get some water.
About what?
About the wonderful lunch or whatever it was.
Oh, it was dinner.
Dinner.
So, yeah, he enjoyed it, and the next day I got Montezuma's revenge. Not knowing everything in an English breakfast that had wheat, gluten, or whey in it.
Oh, so did you have some of the stuff that you weren't supposed to?
Oddly, I was fine.
A day and a half. I would be in the bathroom while they're on coasters.
Okay, you do realize this is being recorded, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So then when we got to Alton Towers, the hotel, Then I asked for gluten-free menu, and then I found out everything at breakfast that I had been eating that had gluten, wheat, and whey. So for 2 mornings, all I had was pretzels and banana and apple juice and just very, very light. I ate a lot of pretzels.
I think I said potatoes were okay.
But it's just the seasonings that they used and everything. And what was really weird about breakfast is they always served bacon beans, corn, and stewed tomatoes.
Stewed tomatoes.
Every breakfast.
Every breakfast? Wow.
It's no better than Mexico, which served hot dogs.
Well, they were little hot dog, yeah. But anyway.
It's like,
but overall,
you've done your research.
Overall, it was a good trip. So, a lot of dark rides and stuff.
And we'll probably do another one next year.
Yep, maybe.
For about 2 weeks.
Hi.
Missy,
I had to go over. She was saying hi to me.
Yep.
So yeah, then we went to Alton Towers. We stayed at the Alton Towers Hotel. It's a good 10 minute walk just to the monorail, would you say, Kay?
Yeah, especially since we went to the monorail and there was a long line and we decided we would walk to the park, and what we did was a big loop around the monorail. We never did make it to the park, so we got in line for a longer line for the monorail.
Also, the park we realized when they said like they need a relief road to like ease congestion, I was like thinking, whatever. It's probably like a 6-lane. It was a 2-lane highway. It was a 2-lane road that went through neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Like this needs like a 6-lane highway probably. And for Alton Towers, Kay, what size would you compare the park to?
A lot bigger than Six Flags.
I think I said it's like the size is like 4 Six Flags Great Americas with the same number of rides, but more spread out.
So that would
actually more like clumped.
So would that mean that if you're talking about 4 Great Americas, then that would mean it would be over 1,000 acres?
Well, I'm talking about the park itself, not including the parking lot. Alton Towers is like 800 acres.
Oh, okay, 800 acres. That's pretty spacey.
Yeah.
And there's like a chunk of coasters here, a chunk of coasters here, a chunk of coasters here. Some stuff here.
A lake.
And nothing in the middle.
Really?
Trees.
In the middle, but trees?
Well, this sky ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, you want to know how big the park was? Kay, who doesn't like sky rides, did a sky ride.
Really?
Because we could take the wheelchair on. But the thing about wheelchairs at amusement parks in England, they're not motorized. So all these parks that have hills, he wasn't going to push me up and I was going to push him up. We used the chair like a walker. And then going down the hills was like, it would hurt my knees more.
That's how it was over in Atlanta to get out in some spots. Yeah,
they didn't have a motorized.
When you go, well, I don't know about that, but we had a stroller, and it was rough because it was windy, and especially to go to our favorite carousel, it was really rough.
Yeah. But the wheelchairs there were at no cost.
Oh.
They were at a deposit that you got back when you returned the wheelchair.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Kay, before you leave, 2 things I want you to talk about.
Oh, the hotel room?
No, the haunted house you went through.
What about the hotel room? Isn't that the place we had bunk beds?
That was one of the 2 parks, yeah.
1 bed and bunk beds.
That's awesome.
And because I'm a nice son, I took the bunk.
Yes.
She took the bed.
But the haunted houses, we had tickets to get in the haunted house. And the haunted house was like 3 levels, okay? So first level, nobody could touch you and you couldn't touch them. They could just scare you, and you had to have your hands on the shoulders of the person in front of you.
Like it was literal conga line.
Oh, God. After I made it through that one, I'm like, I'm
I
done.
can't take it anymore.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm out of there.
Now, Kay, did I tell you to do the haunted house, or did someone else in the group tell you?
Another person encouraged me, so I did it, and then he kept trying to freak me out the whole rest of the night.
Me?
He did.
Okay.
You, not you. So from then you went on the second floor,
Oh,
correct?
Then I did the second and the third one.
And what was the second floor? What did that entail?
Well, they weren't floors. They were just like 3 houses in the same
okay.
area.
I see.
Yeah, it would be like if Gurney Mills had like 3 sections that were all like haunted house walkthroughs.
Yeah, so it was in the castle.
Yeah, the first one I think was a Blair Witch parody. Or
I don't know.
Inspired
it was just
by the Blair
dark,
Witch.
and they freaked me out.
That's not true. There were lights at one point.
Yeah, well, they light when they freak you out. You know?
They were like the type of things where, KD, here's how
loud bang, and then whee,
no,
light.
here's
off.
how the lights are. Blink really fast.
They were laser. They were,
Okay.
you know.
No, they were like just like flicking lights.
Hopefully nobody got a seizure from it.
Yeah.
Ah, well. Anyway, then the second one. Second one is, well, I'm glad Kay kind of jumped ship when she did, because
She would have had some issues in the second one.
Well, considering how they touch you and they push you,
Oh man, I wouldn't like that.
And they separate you from the crowd.
and it's an actual maze, so if you get lost, oh well. But then there's the bad part. Do you know what the worst part is that Kay would not like? As she
What?
said, she has a bad knee. She has bad knees.
Right.
There's a section where you have to crawl in a tube like McDonald's play place. And apparently the guy who I was with, they grabbed his ankle. Kay would have probably cried in more ways than one.
Freak it out.
And then there's the third one, which is, best way I can describe it is Britain's version of Hillbillies. With pretty good southern accents. And this part may be mildly offensive, but it is not meant to be. It is just my personal opinion. There were 2 things that I found really scary. The first was that there was a fat dude in just his underwear saying how we were good looking.
That's wrong. A fat dude in just his underwear saying how good looking people were?
Tidy whities.
Oh. Ugh. I think I would have stormed out.
Oh,
Well,
did I
you
mention...
wouldn't until you got to a certain point.
Did I mention that some of the characters touched your entire face?
Ooh,
And some touched your cheeks?
Oh, I don't want my face touched.
And I was like, ha, joke's on you, I have a cold.
Do they stop then?
No. Because I said that afterwards.
No.
So, that's the... I would find that terrifying.
I would have sneezed on him. Achoo!
Hey, boy, you don't look
Stop.
cute. You don't look cute. So that's the first thing. And then they did something that... Put a disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
They did something that I don't think you should do in haunted houses. And I know haunted houses are all about pushing the envelope, yada, 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 whatever. There was a scene where at the end, spoiler alert, there was a lady who was shooting a shotgun.
Oh,
And I'm sorry, but considering the climate, especially what's been going on this year and in general, I get, and in Manchester,
Justin, just hold it. I don't
um,
think we did them.
I do think that's in. I think until something happens, you shouldn't use that as like a
Scare cat.
as a scare tactic,
Mhm.
because that's
I'll give
sadly
that to you.
because haunted houses are supposed to make you like scare you, but make you realize like that probably won't happen in my life.
Okay.
With more and more incidents, when I heard that, because you first hear it, you don't see it, I was like really terrified that something had really gone crazy. Someone had really, you know, and I don't think I should fear,
Don't fear the Reaper.
I don't think I should fear death from, from guests in a haunted house.
Yeah, I would.
I shouldn't fear the general public in a haunted house. Scarecrow's fine, but who's to say that that bang wasn't like someone who brought their own weapon in?
It's possible.
Because they didn't really check a lot of security coming in.
Anyway, Kay, there's one more thing I want you to talk about. Okay, fine, I'll get back to it.
What is the?
Look at this map, skip the flat rides and the food places, because Kay and I will talk about it Kay and I will talk about it. So, if you listen to the In the Loop podcast, which you better, Drew talked about how I met up with him. I wanted to ride my 650th coaster with him, but then we split up, and no idea where either of us was. That was mainly my fault, because one, I didn't ask him for his phone number, and two, the Octonauts, I needed to ride the Octonauts coaster, so that way, that would be my 649th. That way I would get the little kiddie coaster out of the way, and then I would get to Smiler for my 650th. I think Drew thought that the first coaster I was going to ride was going to be my 650th. And in a case of he was smarter than me, which that's a pretty big list, Octonauts was actually my 650th. I had miscounted on my list. You're looking at it right now. I forgot to include Avalanche at Blackpool.
Mm.
So, Drew, from the bottom of my heart, I apologize. I didn't tell you the idea or the agenda. I didn't ask what coasters you wanted to go on in your order. I apologize. That is my fault, and hopefully I won't make that mistake ever again. And I hope you can, if we ever meet at another park, you can give me another chance. Which, next year, if we do a second trip, that might happen.
Thank you.
What did you need?
Okay.
What?
So yeah, I rode some coasters. What was your opinion on the roller coaster restaurant?
I thought that was really cool.
Is that the thing that you showed me like 9 months ago?
Yeah, that was the thing where it was like, if spoiler alert, if I ever owned Great America, that is something I would put where Strutter's is.
Okay.
And me and Drew were talking about it, and I was like, how come, Disney, Universal, what is it? Or Cedar Point don't have it? And they were like, well, uh, people that don't speak English, they wouldn't necessarily be able to do it. And I was like, well, what about, park? They were like, that could work. Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Mm.
But anyway, the thing was like very like 80s, 70s, 80s, would you say? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The food was pretty good. You ordered on a tablet. And the food got delivered to you on a rail. Along the way, there were also like old pictures of coasters, concept art of pictures. Like you got to see the concept art of Nemesis and Oblivion and Air 13.
And this is at Alton Towers?
Yeah, this is the roller coaster restaurant. But there's one big problem with it. They
What?
don't take reservations.
So you may have to wait.
Yeah, and there was a line. But anyway, that was later. KD is looking at a picture.
Oh, cool.
They said that there's not as many thingies here as in, but the wall was all full of
Park stuff.
yeah. The ride layouts, where they were going to put the ride, how the ride was going to be built.
The restraints.
Yeah. But they said this one was not as good as some of
Food
the...
loop in
Yeah. These were more
At Europa
straight
Park.
on. The other ones at Europa Park did more loops and...
Yeah, can you imagine
stuff coming
food being
to you.
delivered to you through a loop? Like I was gonna do what the
When you
legend
walked
did.
in.
Well, that's cool.
I was gonna do
Yeah.
what the legend did, and I was gonna get like ribs and fries.
Yeah.
Here's the other park for maybe a second trip next year.
So do your drinks come on the thing too, or?
Depending
Apparently,
on what they were.
apparently you don't get like cups of soda. You get bottles. Whatever.
But it just looked like a cool concept inside, so...
One thing I will say about On Towers, for their Q lane or Q-bot, what is it called? It doesn't. Their front of the line thing. It's not like Great America or Six Flags where I think they do it the best, where you just go up the exit. In this, you walk like right next to the queue line. So you'll be walking like 5 or 10 minutes just to get to it. So it's like long queue lines. It's like, whoa. I needed to take a breather a few times. And not just because I'm out of shape. So I rode Octonauts, then I rode Smiler. Drew loved Smiler. I love about 95% of Smiler. Maybe I'm just getting old. Maybe I'm just a wimp because I said that several times. But there were 2 corkscrews or barrel rolls at the end that were taken at a speed higher than probably what they were designed to. So they kind of banged your head a little bit. And that was the only part I found, rough. The ride is tangled within itself. Oh, and inside the building you hear a ha 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 ha. And then at the end, which it didn't matter because I didn't have my glasses on, the walls are blurry. UK, something else. Then we did Oblivion, which is a very short ride. It makes Shikra look like... It makes Shikra look like Cheetah Hunt. Like you thought Shikra was short? Oh, no. Oblivion, here's what it is. You go up 70 feet, you take a turn, and the very famous "Don't look down." It's no longer synced, so it now just does it randomly, which is a bummer. Then you drop almost 90 degrees into a tunnel. You drop 180 feet. Then you go up, you take a turn, and then you go down, and then you go up, and then you're in the station. It was more built for the concept of just almost straight drop into the ground. That's what I think that was the idea, and it was a prototype, so you can understand them not wanting to stretch it too far, but, you know.
Could have been more.
Yeah, it could have been more. I don't even know how to put it better. Then I went on Spinball Wizard. Spinball Wizard, very tiny restraints. I got pushed in. Some people said it was a fun ride. I like blood circulation to my legs, so I can't say it was my favorite ride there. Then we went on the Runaway Mine Train, and I'm not speaking to everyone. I'm not speaking to everyone from England with this, okay?
Okay.
I'm only speaking to the dummy that I saw while riding the mine train. Dude, do you not read the news? Are you like the British equivalent of Amish? There was a story of how a girl, I'm pretty sure it was a girl, fell out of a rapids ride by standing up. And what do? You idiot? You do the exact same thing. Be smart. Everyone listening to this, please never stand up in a rapids ride unless you are told to by an employee. Don't be stupid. Please don't.
Don't be stupid. That's the moral of the story.
So anyway, the mine train. It's really long and you go around twice. And it's kind of in a jungle section.
Bonus.
After that, I rode Nemesis. Nemesis was... I rode it twice.
Bonus.
It was good.
Bonus.
The magnets were good.
Bonus. Bona beef.
But I've ridden a lot of rides that I've just found okay more than once. Here's my problem with Nemesis. I've seen the POV of it years ago. and it's still in my head. And the way it's described is that most of the ride is hidden, so you don't see exactly what's going on. In here, you stand in the queue line, or you go in the... This one, you actually did go up the exit area. This one, you can see pretty much everything. And in previous Nemesis, from what I remember, the track was like grayish. So it kind of looked like it was this metal monster. They've recently repainted it to like a... kind of like a... egg white color with rust color. So when I looked at it, I was like, oh my god, this ride needs a paint job badly. Without noticing that that was apparently the intention, to make it look rusty. Which to me, I don't know, that doesn't seem, good. Very, very fast, very forceful, very short. I was not a huge fan of it. It was probably just disappointment or overhype or something. But, David, who I rode it with, he said that ride was better than Batman, and I was like, it's no Batman backwards. Because when I rode Batman backwards at Great America, even though I knew the layout, it was still disorienting, because I was like, okay, now I'm gonna turn. Whoa, I'm dipping. Or now I'm going to go into the corkscrew. No, I'm turning around. It's like, what? So, yeah. Great magnets. Here's a problem that I have. Alton Towers, your signature icon ride, Nemesis. How come you don't have Nemesis magnets in your main gift shop? They were like, the rides were specific to that section, and you couldn't get those types of magnets anywhere else. So I lost out on on a great Nemesis magnet. So fix that. Then I rode Galactica, it was down all day. But fortunately, well, obviously, as you can see, I rode it. It's a flying coaster similar to Superman, but it's much smaller, and it was a proof of concept. It was a prototype. I was thinking that the ride was going to be kind of dull, so what I did was I put on their VR headset, and this one, unlike Six Flags has the thing where you just put on a helmet, this, you put on something that's attached to the car. So you put it on. I was like, is it locked? Is this on right? Galactica, the best way I can describe it is, knockoff Star Trek. Or knockoff Star Trek, Doctor Who, Battlestar Galactica. Like any of those things where you go through portals in space and you go through different sections, that's pretty much what this ride was. It was fun. Then after that, then we did the haunted houses all day. Rita was closed. All day. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to be bummed out if I don't get to ride Rita. And then I heard from some people.
What's Rita?
I heard from some people, hey dude, Rita's operating. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, go. And I was like, okay, bye. I would have missed out on so many coasters if I didn't. If some of these people didn't have extremely high annoyance tolerances. So I just want to thank all of you that helped me. I wish I remembered your names, but I'm an idiot and a jerk. I'm sorry.
Well, at least you confessed.
Rita, I rode Rita. It was actually pretty fun. I heard that it was like a 30-second ride. You haven't been on Maverick, so it was like Cheetah Hunt if it only went up like 30 or 40 feet and didn't go upside down. But yeah, it had like swooping turns, it had airtime camelback hills. It was a lot of fun. No idea why it's called Rita. A famous rumor is that it stands for Alton Towers Intamin Rocket backwards. Then I rode 13 in the tiniest restraints known to human existence. You remember how I made a joke in the first comment, or in the first show, that it was okay, like, I wasn't gonna I wasn't having to, like, relocate my kidneys or liquidate body parts?
That's a good thing.
I had to for 13. The ride is a family coaster, but the seats are very tight. So they pushed several times. And I've been stapled. And this was the first time after I was done, an employee said, "Are you okay?" After he stapled me. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I told you to." If the ride had airtime, my kidneys weren't allowing it. Because I don't think I could feel them. There's a surprise, and then there's a surprise after the surprise. I'm not going to ruin it because I know KD is going to gamble or sell his blood to go to England next year. Yes, do that for an audio podcast. Stop giving the Nazi salute.
Hey.
Enough jazz hands. So yeah, I rode 13. Me and Drew kind of had a little discussion. I was like, I'm glad it's open. I was glad it was open. I said to him, like, did you ride it? And he said, yeah. It was kind of dumb, though. If I was on Towers, I would have just kept the ride closed and told the employees to go home. Well, I'm glad they stayed. Because we went big, and then they can go home.
Okay, then.
Can you pass? After that, then during the day, we did two rides, Duel and Hex. Duel is a shooting dark ride, where it's a long dark ride inside an attraction that was previously a haunted house that just wasn't popular. So they added guns to it. It was really cool. I got a higher score than Kay. Are you surprised?
No.
And then I rode Hex, and this was where my rheumatoid arthritis was, like, really hurting me. Like, I was thinking it was just going to be one pre-show, and then you were going to go on the ride. No, it was like three pre-shows.
It wasn't that way.
Yeah, it was like 3 pre-shows. And the whole theme of Hex is, it's kind of like a ripoff of the Blair Witch Project. You know,
really?
The overrated, unscary, boring movie.
Yeah, that was. I saw it, and I was like, what's so scary about this?
It was found footage. Wink. Sorry, people, I did not find that movie scary. The sequel was at least trying to do something cool. Or something unique. But anyway, then we rode Hex. And this was a good madhouse. Like, you know what a madhouse is, right? It's a much smaller river rocker that is more wide. and you rock back and forth while the room spins around you, so you feel like you're upside down or vertical or horizontal or whatever. After that, then we... Oh, something I want to say about the Alton Towers Hotel. This is for you Halloween fans. They themed the hotel for Halloween.
Really?
Yeah, like I think there's like a boutique. There's like a like like ghost assistants instead of guest assistants. It was like puns like that. And it was all themed. Then we went to then we slept. Then we went to Drayton Manor. For you old school coaster enthusiasts, you'll know this for 7-Up Shockwave. I'll get to that. So we get ERT on G-Force, which is a low-capacity coaster. The park wasn't expecting a lot of guests, except... When did we go to this park? Thursday. It was a Thursday, but apparently that day was, hey kids, let's go to Drayton Manor Park Day. Because it was very busy and the park did not have the ride capacity for it. Like G-Force probably only does like 600 guests an hour or so, maybe even less. I rode it. Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need more water?
More Aquafina, please.
I rode it once, and other people rode it 9 or 10 times, and I was like, I kind of want to have children at some point in my life, or I kind of want to urinate without blood coming out, so...
You probably shouldn't touch the top of the glass with being sick.
Anyway, I said, I don't want blood in my urine, so I'm only going to ride it once. Because Marson does not have the nicest restraints for people. Most people, or a few people. There were some that rode it a lot, and I was like, you have fun with that. You ride it over and over again. Then, what was weird about this park was, even when the park opened, they didn't open they only had that one coaster open that we already rode. There was nothing else open. So, we waited like 20 or 30 minutes for us to ride the accelerator. Oh man, that was fun. Accelerator, you know how I said the runaway train was like if Kay designed a wild mouse?
Mm-hmm.
Accelerator is like if Kay designed a Vekoma boomerang. You remember Deja Vu?
Mm-hmm. I like Deja Vu.
This was a family Deja Vu.
Oh.
For example, instead of being below the track, you're above the track. Instead of 90 degrees, it's more of like 45 or 50 degrees. Maybe even less. Or tame. Or maybe even 40. Instead of going like 196 feet in the air, you only went like 65 feet in the air. Then you went down. And then you took a curve, and then you did a helix. And then you went up. And then you kind of like went next to the train. Or next to the lift that you went backwards. And then you do the ride backwards. I said to somebody, I was like, I like that ride. What did you think? And they said, best Vekoma boomerang. And I was like, Kay, if your knees were better, if your back was better, you would have enjoyed the ride. Then I rode 7-Up Shockwave. This one also had a long line. I don't know if we had... No, we didn't have front of the line tickets at this park because they weren't expecting a lot of guests, and that turned out to be inaccurate. This is Europe's only standing roller coaster, and the only the only stand-up roller coaster in the world to have a 0G roll. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently you can ride it backwards, which I would have never thought about doing for a stand-up. Because you know how stand-ups go, right? Like you do this.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently their version, you can do this. The ride was very short. It had a loop, 0G roll, and double corkscrew. And then you took a U-turn and then you went back into the station. That was a fun ride. One of the bigger surprises at that park. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something kind of unique about Shockwave, real quick. Shockwave.
Broke your knees?
No,
Gave you head damage?
no.
Well, then it was much better than the one that was at Six Flags.
Yes.
Okay.
This one, when it was built, they obviously submitted the plans, and the city was like, approved. They're perfect. You can build them. Then when the ride was built, it was discovered that it was too close to neighboring locals. So the neighboring locals were like, hey, you have to close this ride. And then they looked at the blueprints. It was in the exact same spot that they had approved. So I think they won the argument there. Then we went into the Thomas Land, which is gigantic, with like 15 attractions themed to Thomas the Tank Engine.
Well, Thomas the Tank is British.
Mm-hmm. Hit Entertainment, I believe. I rode the Troublesome Trucks coaster. It's a, standard family coaster. It's adorable. Like, you just want to pick it up and pet it and make it purr.
Okay, then.
I heard that on a podcast, so... And... I guess I'm going to sound spoiled. But because I didn't have the front of the line passes, and most of the rides were like 30, 40 hour long lines, I was getting really annoyed really fast and like really bored really fast.
Really?
Yeah. So then we rode the Buffalo Mountain Coaster, which is a really long powered coaster that you go around twice. And a lot of people said it was long enough. You only needed to go around once. There were some people in the group that were going to do it, but then when they saw the line, they were like, no. We can ride Big Thunder at Disney World. We don't need to ride this. Then I did the Yogi Bear 4D simulator, which it wasn't a unique film. It was just kind of like clips of the Yogi Bear movie, which was okay because I liked the Yogi Bear movie and there were a few funny bits. There's also a lot of bubbles. And I got to take off my shoes, which was good because my feet were hurting at this point. And then there was one last thing I had to do. What does that say, KD?
Super Lou? Super Low?
Super Lou. That was the name of one of the that was a sign on one of the bathrooms. Are you curious?
No.
The answer is yes.
I don't want to know.
You want to know what made them super?
Sure.
There was a sign that said Super Lou. They were just regular bathrooms. But I was like, we got to take a picture of this. JJ is not gonna believe it. Uh, we weren't the first ones done with that park, but we were in the top 5 people that were done. There was one girl, Laura, who was done first, and like she was just kind of wandering around in front of the hotel, like wondering where our bus was, and then, or yeah, our coach bus, and then we all started getting back there, and we were like, it does not have the capacity for its demand. And they had a zoo, which if my feet were better, or if the park was less crowded, we probably would have at least looked at. But it was kind of one of those things where, like, let's just go. This this wasn't like, I think I said to Kay, theme park trips, I guess, are kind of like going to war, or being in like being in a troop going to war. The first day, everyone is bright eyed and cheerful. By the time you get to like the 5th or 6th day, you see the enthusiasm start to decline. You see the wounds start to appear. Like, whether they be actual wounds, like, or scars, battle scars. And I know I'm totally offending veterans here, and I apologize. But KD is not a veteran, so blame him.
Hey.
But it's, when you do a trip for like 6 or 7 days, by about the 6th day, you're not as happy. You're starting to get like, you're starting to feel more pains and stuff. Do you feel that? You can speak in this audio podcast.
I have.
Okay. This is the only time I've done this. Okay?
Okay.
On this entire trip. So from Friday, October 20th through Friday night, October 27th. Out of all of the hours of driving that the bus driver did, this was the only time I ever did this, okay? I fell asleep. I was just like... Well, according to Kay, I didn't snore that much, but yeah, a lot of people were sleeping. We got into traffic. We got, there was some rain. And the thing is, Chessington is probably this very beautiful themed park, probably on the scale of like a Busch Gardens Williamsburg or a Busch Gardens Tampa, or one of those parks.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're at night, you can't really tell.
You can't really tell anything because it's dark.
You can't really tell the theming, and the park didn't have a ton of lights.
Could be a problem.
So, one thing that I knew, there were three things that I knew about this park. One, they had Vampire, which is a aero suspended coaster that recently got floorless seats similar to Batman. So, you rode Iron Dragon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine Iron Dragon with Batman seats. But more intense. The other thing I know is that they have a Gruffalo River boat ride. And they have a carousel that they've added called the Chessington Adventure Tree. And as you in the loopers will know, Drew the Intern is Mr. Carousel. Because he rode the carousel at SeaWorld Orlando for 5 straight hours. And I was like, I kind of feel bad that I didn't get to ride a carousel or that I didn't get to ride my 650th coaster with him, because not even I had really decided up until that point. So I was like, I want to do a ride. I want to do a carousel ride with Mr. Drew the Carousel. Mr. Carousel Drew. Which would have been great, except that that carousel didn't have the best capacity, and Drew and his girlfriend were on limited time, as was I. So they were like, no, I'm not going to do it. I was like, okay, I apologize. They're like, whatever. So then we just kind of walked about. Oh, by the way, to get to this park, or to get into this park, you don't, the way we did it, you didn't walk through the entrance. You walked through the hotel. You walked through the Chessington Hotel, and then you walked underneath monkeys. I was like, that's interesting. So anyway, they gave us a card where it was kind of like a punch card thing. Like you got like 10 or 11 things that you could skip the line for, and then they would just like either put a pen line next to it, or they would just like rip a little bit of it. Apparently for Drew, they completely ripped his. So he was like, can I have a new one? I don't remember what happened on that one. I've only heard that podcast twice. That was another thing. Later on, he was like, you listen to podcast episodes more than once? I was like, yeah. He was like, why? I was like, because you guys are entertaining. Tough to argue with that, huh? So I rode Dragon's Fury. Dragon's Fury is similar model to Spinball Whizzer at Alton Towers, and I was like, oh, great. Well, I'm gonna be in a high-pitched voice. I'm gonna be in a high-pitched voice for the rest of the night, because I'm gonna get punched, if you know what I mean. I was totally fine. The seats at Chessington, a family park, are bigger than Alton Towers, a thrill park. I don't understand that, but thanks. There were three members of the group that I unintentionally followed. I was like, hey, I'm gonna ride the Dragon's Fury, and they rode it in the car before me, or the car after me. And I was like, well, head to Vampire. Vampire's that suspended coaster. Someone developed a numbers. There were two kids doing a numbers game, so I was kind of bored, so I was like, hey, how do you do the numbers game? And maybe for a third podcast, or maybe for a bonus one, if anyone wants to know, we can say what the numbers game was. But yeah, I was worried, like, okay, I'm gonna probably be crunched in. One little push, I was fine. It was a fun ride. I had never been on Big Bad Wolf at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, but I went to Drew the Intern and some other people. I was like, is that ride similar to Big Bad Wolf at Busch Gardens? And they were like, a little bit. And I was like, I thought so. Then there was the Gruffalo River Ride adventure, which I wish I could have gone to England in like 2003 or so, where I could have ridden the Professor Burp's Bubble Works. You remember that?
Yes.
It was like, oh my god, this ride was beautiful. Why did you guys mess it up? But anyway, then instead of being themed to soda, it was themed to soap. And then after
good.
that sponsorship was over, it was then turned into the Gruffalo ride. Spoiler alert, I have no idea what the Gruffalo is. I'm guessing it's some British kids ride or some British kids book. It would probably be like Good Night Moon over here or whatever. But it's a ride where I think the plot of it is there's this mouse that doesn't believe in the Gruffalo, so he goes into danger, and then, uh, well, what do you think happens?
I don't know. What
There's a lot of projectors. There's a lot of screens. There's a lot of wonderful effects. It's beautiful. Um, Surprised. I was surprised there was a lift. There was a chain lift, or there was a lift, and I was like, "Oh boy, is the ride okay? Like, Kay, are you gonna be okay?" She was gonna be like, "I'll be fine." And so we then dip, and you do get a little wet in this area. It's an area with all of the fountains.
Mm,
I have no idea what that has to do with the Gruffalo, but it looked adorable.
okay.
Which, by the way, I don't know who it was, but I ended up making a lame pun at Blackpool. Because I was saying, like, hey, did you guys ride the Dora ride? And they were like, no. And I was like, it was adorable. They were like, ha ha ha. And I was like, dang it, I didn't mean to. They were like, yeah, sure you didn't.
We don't.
Another half hour at least. Then I rode, so yeah, it was a fun ride. And it was funny because that was one that Kay was like, don't ride that lame little ride. And she was like, okay, fine, I'll ride it. She ended up liking it. Then I rode Tomb Blaster, which is,
A tomb.
it's kind of like an Indiana Jones themed
Oh, cool.
shooting dark ride. Spoiler alert, I beat Kay again. Then we went to the last two coasters, Rattlesnake, which it was a wild mouse, except the ride wasn't as braked as much as wild mice here in the US, which was wonderful for ribs. I'll get to ribs later. So yeah, it was wild mouse, it was fun. Then there was Scorpion Express. This is kind of like a standard Mack powered mine train coaster, but this one is kind of steampunk Western themed, with a metal scorpion that sprays water and a torch that launches fire.
Well,
Uh, I rode with Laura, and I wish we had sat. I wish we had reversed seats, and I had sat where she did, and she had sat where I did, because two things. One, I feel like I had crushed her a little bit because there were small seats, and I was like cramming in. That was the first one. The second one was that, you know how I said the scorpion sprays water? Take a guess where she was sitting. She was sitting where you get wet.
of course.
Take a guess where I was sitting.
Where you get wet.
Where you don't get
Where
wet.
you don't get wet.
So, move to the side here. So, I'm going to describe to you what I did on the second time, and you're going to describe it to the audience, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, when it looked like the section where the scorpion was going to get her wet, I did this. So, describe it to the audience.
So putting water on me.
No, I was putting was trying to like protect her from
getting wet.
From getting wet, because I feel like I had already ruined that ride enough for her. You can move back. Then after that, then we did, we had pretty much finished everything in the park. They have a pretty cool themed top spin, didn't ride. And so we went to the Smokehouse Barbecue and Bar because there's like some special where it was like 25% off after 4 p.m. or something. It is a really cool Western themed food place. Yeah, we got like ribs and brisket and like macaroni and cheese and fries, and it was a really good deal. And soda. They have a kind of a Coke freestyle, but their Coke freestyle is like, hey, you can either get Coke, Diet Coke, or Sprite. So it was like an updated version of like the fountain drink area, you know. Then we got on the bus. Oh, something I want to say about Chessington. Your magnets are terrible. This park did not have ride magnets. This park did not have animal magnets. This park had one Chessington magnet left. You know what they did have, though? 50 magnets for the Sea Life Aquarium. I'm not going to say who, but there was someone who said, I don't want Sea Life magnets. I want Chessington magnets. I was like, I agree. Their big new ride, the Gruffalo, and they don't have a magnet for it in the main gift shop. It was only in that small section when you exited. It's like, UK, get it together, please. Then we got on the bus and then we did our drive to the final hotel, the Shark Hotel. When I looked at it, I was like, oh cool, we're gonna sleep in the metal shark. Not true. It's called a shark hotel because, yeah, you walk through a shark, but that's essentially just like I don't even know how to describe it. You walk through it, but then there's more walking afterwards. The hotel rooms, the best way I can describe them is, according to Kay, they were similar to cruise room hotels when in the 80s when she worked. Guess what? Bunk beds. We stayed there 2 nights. I got the.
Is that a theme in England? Bunk beds.
This was just a small hotel, I guess. And I'm gonna mention their bathrooms. Not to be gross, but just to be kind of odd. Okay. The bathroom floor is flat. The shower is just curtains. So when you shower, the water hits the floor. But the room isn't, kind of made in like where all the water would go into the drain, would go down the drain. It's flat. So any water that stays there, stays there.
Really?
Which we found out and wasn't the most fun. We saw when we checked in, we saw some Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men, and then we fell asleep.
Yeah. Cool.
NyQuil will do that.
Yeah, it will. You are correct.
Then we did a walkthrough of the Saw haunted house the next day. It was pretty cool doing the walkthrough with the lights on and no gore or torture. And there's like the lady said, like, There's one instance in the Saw Maze where there's men that are either naked or almost naked that are like running out, that are running to attack you. And I made a joke. I would find that terrifying. No offense, people, but that's not on my top 1 billion bucket list. Is that on yours? Getting
No.
chased by near nude men?
No.
Now near nude women. Much better haunted house experience. I apologize, ladies. Like you didn't think I was a jerk already. Then I did Saw the Ride, and I was worried this was gonna be like Dollywood, where they don't push down your seats. Not true. They pushed down my seat. I was totally fine. The ride has gore at the beginning, and a zero-G roll that is half indoors, half outdoors, and a loop and a couple of twists. It's a pretty fun ride. What does that next attraction say?
Hate Colossus.
Here's why I hate Colossus.
Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Continue.
And wait, what does it say after Thorpe Park?
Tiny Seats Park.
Yes.
Is that why?
Yes. All of these rides had
Ding,
tiny
ding, ding,
seats.
ding, 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 ding. Maury, tell him what is we won.
There's someone who was much thinner than me, and he was unable to breathe for the entire ride.
What happened to you?
I didn't ride.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
There were, I am going to offend women here, and I apologize, but this isn't what I was told, you know? Or this is what I was told.
Okay.
And this is what I heard.
Okay.
There's one girl that's very muscular.
Okay.
You know, she's muscular.
Front.
Yeah, pecs. She's muscular. She was unable to fit on that ride, and she blamed it on her muscles.
Her muscles.
And she said, "Dang it, you big muscles!" Which was... Is it okay to say it was hilarious if I didn't get to ride either? So it wasn't like I was rubbing it in her face.
Sure, why not?
And are you ready to cringe?
Sure.
Okay. There was one girl who really wanted to ride. I know her name, but I'm not going to say it to protect her.
Box. Continue.
I know a June Foray. That was the voice of Granny on Looney Tunes. And most of the female characters.
Bonus.
But anyway, this is what I heard, okay? So if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. She was also very muscular. So in order to ride, KD, I'm going to show you. I just want your response. Don't say anything, okay? And she was in pain all day. Yeah. There were people in the group that were able to ride it, but there were people that weren't able to ride it. And I was like, I wonder if I had done this park first. Maybe I would have fit. Oh well. You never know. And you can be like, well, you can go back to Thorpe Park. I don't want to go back to Thorpe Park. I had a very bad time at Thorpe Park. I wanted to get the heck out of Thorpe Park.
Okay.
Because Thorpe Park had, like, every fourth person in that park smoked. Which, for someone getting over a cold in October that has rheumatoid arthritis and is allergic to smoking, God bless you. So that was, a big strike against the park as to why I don't want to go back. And if I do, maybe bring an oxygen mask or an oxygen tank. I don't know. Uh, then I rode X, which not the drug is an indoor coaster where it simulates going to a rave. Okay, but what's weird is that they require two guests per seat, not back to back, but like side to side. Okay, which was weird, but it was fun. Then I got on Stealth, which is a mini Kingdika. It launches you to 205 feet at like 80 miles an hour. Then you go through a small hill, and then you hit the brakes. And I was saying to David, who I was riding with, if Colossus got these restraints, would it be okay? Or would it be better? Or if it got I-305 restraints? And he was like, it would make the ride 10 times better. And I was like, was there any need for the restraints to be that tight? And he was like, no. He was like, that's when he said, like, I wasn't able to breathe on that ride. Like, I was like really pushed in.
Mm.
Then we went on Flying Fish. Similar model to Scorpion Express at Chessington. This one was a little bumpier, and when I went on it, I was like thinking, let me test this ride because I think Kay could handle it. By the time after we were done with the first lap, when we got to the second, I was like doing thumbs down. No, you are not riding this. I am not allowing you to ride this. Then I did the tidal wave, which it's a shoot the chutes, but it has like a huge splash section far away from where the boats land. So I was like, well, I'm gonna do it. Give me my poncho. So yeah, then I did that. Then we went to Inferno Pizza and Pasta. It's the British CC's, except no dessert. And a little more chaotic. A lot more chaotic. And a big problem is that they didn't exactly mark what the pizza was. They just had pizzas, but you didn't know like which one was which. Like there was one and I was like, is this Hawaiian or is this Hawaiian? Because I see buffalo chicken. And she was like, no, it's buffalo chicken. I was like, but the thing says it's Hawaiian. I'm like, oh, gee. It was very chaotic. I had pizza and pasta and not salad. Surprise. And I sat next to Drew and Lucy. There were sparks between the two. They were... I probably won't be invited to the bachelor party now, but, yeah, it's, they're a cute couple. But yeah, I was talking to him about, theme park stuff, which, Drew, I'm very sorry. Had I known you didn't want to talk about that stuff, I wouldn't have brought it up. I don't know what I would have brought up, because there were some rules that you couldn't bring up politics, and yet some people brought up politics. Some people, I think, brought up race as well. And I was like, I'm not going to bring up those subjects. But I did talk about Hillary's America to someone. About how they compared, what was it? They compared having an affair to whipping a slave.
Okay.
You saw this movie.
That movie that you showed me?
Yeah, Hillary's America.
You're the one who showed it to me.
There was one, I said, like, in the Civil War reenactment, the flag had 50 stars on it. Kind of interesting.
Kinda.
Can you stay for just like 15 more minutes?
5.
10. You weren't here on Thursday.
Yeah, and it was my birthday, and I had a bunch of crazies.
Darren Brown's Ghost Train, it was kind of like... Did you ever ride Earthquake at Universal Orlando?
Yeah.
I would imagine it's similar to that, except the car, I think, moves, and there's a... you wear VR goggles.
Like nighttime goggles?
No, VR headset, like virtual reality.
Virtual reality.
And then you leave that, train or subway to get into another subway, and then you exit.
Okay.
Someone who I was, David, who I was with was, ow, my legs hurt. David, who I was with, said, I want to see what this ride. I want to see this ride's mechanics, like what it looks like and what happens. But a complaint that I have is that that's a very popular ride, but it only puts through maybe 15, 20 people every 5 minutes. So it does not have good capacity.
Doesn't sound like it.
No, this park did not have great capacity on some things. And I rode Nemesis Inferno, and good God, I'm glad I got the big boy seat. With Nemesis like 2 days before, I was able to get like 2 clicks. With this, I wasn't able to get 1. They actually had to push me in the big seat. And David, who I was with, he doesn't need the big seat, but he was like he was having trouble.
Wow.
That ride is more fun than people give it credit for. I would describe the ride as kind of like a volcano Batman the Ride with one less loop, and make the corkscrews interlocking. It's not as, I guess, as successful as the original Nemesis, and I feel like if it wasn't called Nemesis Inferno, there would be much better comparisons. The way I would describe it is, it's like The Lion King, and then the sequel is after last season. Then I rode Swarm, which is a wing coaster similar to X-Flight in an apocalypse theme. Merlin parks tend to like apocalypse themes, apparently. Very small seats. No big boy seat. I was like, oh boy, you're gonna have to push. And that's why this park is the tiny seats park. And now let's get into how I almost got into a fight at this park. Anyway, I'm not gonna say their race or whatever, but we were returning the wheelchair because before the buffet, I needed a wheelchair because like my arthritis was really flaming. Like it was really tough for me to like walk. Like I had to walk on tiptoes because it was less painful. Anyway, you know those portable line things that have like the cloth thing for the line, and you can like move them, whatnot. There were some rowdy there were some troublemakers. I think I can say that. That were that weren't, walking through the line. They were just like going. They were just going through a section. So I was like, well, $7 or I don't know, £550 employee. I'm sorry if the conversion is wrong, but like I said, I'm dumb. Or I moved the fence, or I moved the thing closer to the building, so that way people had to walk through the setup queue line. And some people were like, "Hey, hey, what's up? What's the problem, man? What's up? What do you do?" I was like, I moved the queue line. Do you work at the park? No, I do not. Then why did you move that line? Because people were not waiting and were not walking through that line. They were just doing the shortcut. Hey, dude, ask him why he moved the line. And fortunately, nothing happened. That's probably the closest I've ever gotten to being in a fight at a park. Physical, or verbal, or whatever. I'm gonna ask KD, but I'm also gonna ask you guys. In that predicament, should I have just let it go, or should I have actually, or was I right in what I did? Kay was able to say, CoasterCat, come on, let's go. They're gonna act like you punched them, and then they're gonna sue us. So, KD.
Yes.
What I did by moving the temporary line, so that way people couldn't cut and instead had to walk through the setup line. Was I right in what I did, or were the troublemakers right for almost beating me up?
Well, no, they weren't right for almost beating you up. I think you kind of fueled the flames with what you did, but they were in the wrong. You were trying to let them know that they were in the wrong. So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that you did something wrong. It's just sometimes we have to be careful that what we do may make angry and crazy people even crazier. So, but you got out. It didn't happen. Things
And
were all okay.
so between that, the tiny seats, smoking every 3 millimeters,
Goodbye, Thor Park.
I did not enjoy my day there. And that and Drayton were the only parks on this trip because... KD, come here. Went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We went to 11 parks.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And Drayton, if they had better capacity or less attendance, I probably would have liked that park more. But Thorpe, that was not the best park to end the trip on. And I would say out of all the parks that I went to, Adventure Island, Gulliver's Land, Flamingo Land, Lightwater Valley, Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Southport Pleasureland, Gulliver's World, Alton Towers, Drayton Manor, Chessington, Thorpe. out of all of those parks that I went to, this park had more smoking, and the clientele was a little rougher than I think I had than any of the parks. It almost makes me. I think I said to the leader, I kind of wonder what would happen if we had done the trip in reverse, where you start kind of at the bad park Thorpe, and then you end at the good park Adventure Island. But yeah, I did not enjoy. I enjoyed the trip. I enjoyed many of the coasters. I enjoyed, really everyone that I talked to. I don't know if everyone enjoyed talking to me, but that's another story. I enjoyed a lot of the rides. I enjoyed a lot of the dark rides. I wish I could have done some shows or seen some shows, but we didn't have time. There were some people that were like, "Oh, Thorpe is a really good park. It's like it's awesome," and I was like, "It's not. It's." I wouldn't. I guess I'm glad that I went to Thorpe. And it kind of annoys me that I kind of have to go back to ride Colossus. But, I mean, the park is not that great.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think all in all...
The clientele was rough. Too much smoking. Small seats when they were completely unnecessary.
I think all in all, though, you had a very, very, very good trip. That sounded like there was lots of excitement.
And I think I ended it at 674 coasters, cool. I believe.
Cool.
So, if you have any questions about my European trip, please leave a comment on YouTube, Facebook, or private message me on the various websites. But yeah, this is the last trip that I'm probably not gonna go to Great America for their last call, although I want to. It's just a matter of if this dang cold will finally leave me.
I know. Well.
So, new podcast next week, and maybe even another one, cause we gotta get back in the swing. It was stopped because of the trip and also because of my cold. That's all I gotta say. Thanks to all of the parks that had smoking sections that were far away that I didn't have to deal with. Thanks to everyone that was on that was in the group. Thanks to the group for putting it together. And remember, Infusion is the name of a coaster and of a swingers club in Blackpool.
Okay then.
Bye.
Bye.